Welcome to the Independent Rep Podcast, the podcast for medical sales reps, distributors, and growth-minded manufacturers who want to succeed in today's changing market. Hosted by John Wilson, former OR rep and now medical device recruiter, this show dives into what's really working out in the field, from deal making to distributor dynamics and everything in between. If you're building your career or your company in medtech, you're in the right place. All right, just gonna start. Whatever. All right, so this is Kris Jones. Kris, I'm gonna let you take this away. You're in Oklahoma City, right?
Correct,
And
yeah.
so you primarily are in the ortho space. I'm gonna let you talk to more about that, but tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're doing professionally right now.
Thanks for having me on. I'll try and not ramble on about things, but so Kris Jones, up in Oklahoma City. I run a small orthopedic distributorship, primarily focused in knees and hips, and dabble in shoulders, but mainly knees and hips is what I like. I don't know if do you want me to talk about like how I got started and where I came from and all that background, or do you want to?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely we're gonna get into that. Tell me, I
okay.
have a quick question. Did you see the transition from posterior hip to anterior hip? Were you involved?
Yeah, I went through that. Yeah, that was a fun phase to go through for those of us that were doing it with posterior surgeons that decided to jump on the anterior. What I thought was going to be a bandwagon, and obviously I got that wrong. Anterior is here to stay and will be around for forever. Yeah, that was how would I phrase it? That was kind of an uncomfortable growth process to go through because the instrumentation had to be adapted and changed, and it was just an interesting process to go through. Definitely a lot of education was gained during that process for those that went through it. So
So you've
yeah.
been doing this a while. So yeah, tell us how you started because I actually love this story.
So I started in the operating room when I was 16 years old. So that was 1997. And I know everybody wants to laugh about that and thinks it's pretty funny because I've got an 18-year-old that just graduated and I've got a 16-year-old. And I'll say that my 18-year-old's definitely disciplined and mature enough that she could probably do it. But yeah, I don't really know what my father was thinking when he did that. So he was the distributor. He and my cousin started the distributorship in probably the mid 90s. So, like that 93, 94 time they got in place. They were both surgical technicians. My dad started out as a surgical tech in the late 70s. And so he got into being a sales rep in the late 80s, had a couple different businesses that he was running at the time, and then they were doing the sales distribution thing. And so I was 16 and he needed help. You know, we were around instrumentation and sets and all that stuff all the time at the office and kind of help rebuild some stuff. But yeah, I was 16 carrying a pager at high school and covering cases. I'd do bipolars on the weekend, spring break I'd go in and such. But yeah,
This was
that's
pre-rep scrubs, obviously.
oh yeah, pre-rep tracks, pre-rep scrubs, pre anything. Like I mean, I was fortunate that people were. I mean, it wasn't like I was going in and selling and doing all this. I was covering cases, and then from that point, you know, I lifeguarded during the summer and had normal jobs. Grew up on a farm, normal farm life stuff too. But that's kind of, and then segued into college, biology and chemistry. Thought I wanted to be a orthopedic surgeon and covered cases on the weekends, and I scrubbed at night. I worked at the hospital during college and I was a surgical technician. I did, you know, on the job training, learned how to be a scrub tech, and so I scrubbed during college and for a little bit afterwards too. So yeah, that's kind of my background of how I got to where I am.
Yeah, I mean you've had a legitimate like apprenticeship on what you do.
Yeah, that would be a great way to look at it. And I mean, and not to go like into my philosophical like thoughts on that kind of stuff, but I genuinely think, I mean, that's the best way to do things. I mean, it couldn't probably have been put together better than the way it was. But I mean, some people joke that I was the longest running resident to be around them. Some of the guys that I've worked with for like 20 plus years, you know, the longest guy I worked with, I started when I was 16 and he just graduated. He just retired 2 years ago, and that's what he jokes. I mean, he'd call me Dr. Jones and call me the longest living resident, kind of jokes like that. But that's genuinely, I mean, how I learned was just asking a bunch of dumb questions. I mean, so.
Yeah. So being a distributor, did you ever do any W-2 roles with anybody, any company, any big company at all?
No, I've always, and that's one thing that I don't really have that insight when people talk to me. I have people contact me asking me how to get into industry, and people like that. I don't have any like insight into like what it's like to be a W-2. And this is a dumb story to tell, but like my daughter's applying for jobs right now, like at Chick-fil-A and stuff like that, my 16-year-old. And so she brought me a resume the other day and was like, Dad, I need you to like look at this and tell me what to think. And I looked at it and I said, it looks really pretty, but I've never made one of these before. I've never done this before. You need to show it to your mother. And she was like, what do you mean? And it's like, I never ever like really interviewed for a job. I've never done any of that. I mean, so like, yeah, I've never been a W-2. So I can't speak to like that corporate side. I've always been 1099, I guess is the best way, and owned my own companies and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like you get the best of both worlds with that because you got the training in such an in-depth way that for me, the only real benefit of going W-2 is because they do usually have like best in class training. And
Yeah, I think that that would be one benefit. I mean, especially, I mean, the world's changed and it's continuing to change. And so, like, I have several friends that work for like Stryker and some of the bigger companies, and Stryker's corporate here locally. And so I hear about like those guys and like their training for like their MPS, so their Mako product specialists and all that. So I hear about that training and the guys that are now getting, trained on robotics and so forth. I think that probably is a little bit more streamlined and offered more, but I mean, the 1099 companies that I represent, they do a really good job. Like I had a clinical educator in town about a month ago, and we went over a new product launch and so forth, and trained on it and learned about that. So there's definitely the training there. I just don't think it's kind of like show up, do it, and move on kind of deal. It's a little bit more custom, which I mean, that's kind of what you get with a smaller company and being 1099 like that. So I mean, that's kind of it's you get to pick your poison and choose what you like in life and do, and that works better for me. I mean, and maybe that's just because I don't know what the other side's like, but it's
mhm.
just always worked well for me. And so, yeah.
So like how many products do you have right now? If you can talk
So,
about it.
I mean, I try not to speak specifically to companies always because I don't necessarily represent them, but I carry basically three major small to mid-sized orthopedic companies, and represent them. And so that's they all have their training done differently. Some of it's a lot more digital based, some of it's a lot more hands-on. And so it just depends. A smaller companies aren't typically like launching as many products as some of the larger ortho companies are, but that's typically how the training and the education process, and then they all have the same HIPAA compliance and all the like, I don't know what you'd call it, the legal training that we have to go through yearly, that everybody does that. That's I would say that's I don't want to say it's a downside, but I do that training 3 times every year for
I
each
see.
company.
So did you find those companies on your own? They come to you? Did you inherit some of these companies from your
So
dad?
one company I inherited, and that's the one. So seniors retired now, technically from a full capacity in the company, and so like they're ones that I inherited one company, and then the two others, one was kind of out of necessity. We kind of were seeing some growth pains and like inventory issues, and so I seeked out another company to be able to compensate for some of the issues we were starting to see logistically and with back orders because the company was going through some difficult situations at the time. And then I'll just talk about Link Orthopedics is one of the companies that I represent. They have a lot of like at the time they had a lot of like weird stuff like fusion nails, more kind of in the oncology space for large disaster cases. And so I needed a fusion nail for a surgeon. He wanted a fusion nail. We were at academy together, and so I get Link through a like major regional distributor, is how that functions. And so like I went to the link booth at Academy, said I need a fusion nail. They put me in contact with this regional distributor, and within like 15 minutes we were on the phone working out logistics, how to get this fusion nail and how I could get trained on it. So that link came about as a necessity from what surgeons wanted, and that's continued. So I think I started using link in like 2016. And so what's that math wise? Like that's 8 years, 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. So, and that's been a really good, relationship. They've got really great products and really fit kind of a niche. They've got primary stuff now too, but they're kind of a metal allergy specialty kind of division that I really like for that kind of stuff. So yeah, so you get products in all sorts of different ways. I mean, I know Stu Brandon, he talks about being a medical broker on LinkedIn and that stuff. And so we've kind of always done that. If a surgeon wants something and we have access and the ability to go get that from, manufacturer or working with another distributor that has like a super large territory. I mean,
Mhm.
you know what it's like? It's all about networking. And so and that's been one of the beautiful things about being on LinkedIn is just that connection to other people and being able to find either niche products or things that can just I've kind of developed this like lots of eggs and lots of baskets mentality as I've gotten older, so that like if I trip and fall and break some eggs in one basket, I'm not suddenly, scrambling to find lots of other eggs. So that's kind of a long way to answer your question, I guess. So yeah.
Well, it's good because also, I mean, you kind of exemplify the typical, like, really good, solid 1099 rep where you have such amazing relationships. Like you said, the longest serving resident in that one doctor's OR.
Oh yeah.
So, how many doctors would you say in Oklahoma City or in your territory that you have these relationships with, just number wise, round numbers, and how did you get those? Because that's the true value and why other manufacturers are going to come find you, right?
I mean, I have this thing I joke about, and I don't remember where I heard it from first, so don't think that I'm the one that came up with it because I've heard other people talk about it, but it's kind of the mom test is the way I do it. And I mean, and so I love my mom, so that works for me. So I treat people that are on the operating room table like they're my mom, and I treat other people like we'd be working on their mom and so forth. And so, like, when you talk about like, and this is a way I've always done it is I don't necessarily sell the product as much as I sell my expertise and my knowledge. And then I bring a product in that I believe in and trust and present that to surgeons. And I also, I don't want to sound like an arrogant person, but I would think that it would be difficult to find somebody in the OKC metro area that would probably say anything too terribly bad about me. I mean, I carry myself that way so that I can lay my head down on my pillow at night and feel pretty good about how I live my life. And so that's kind of how I do that with surgeons too. Is I'm not a kind of person that wants to go pester people. I present solutions to problems that I think, surgeons have. There's a product that FDA approved right now. They haven't fully launched in the United States right now, but I saw the product. It's openly on the, I mean, I'll just throw it out there. It's Signature Orthopedics, and they have this 1.5 revision system that they've got that's coming out soon. I looked at it and thought, this is a phenomenally great product. I mean, Kevin Brown posted it. He saw it at Academy. I thought, this is great. I'd love to have my hands on it. So I contacted Signature and said, hey, is this something that would be readily available when it comes fully to the market? And they're like, absolutely. And so I've already shown that to a few guys because I think that it's genuinely that good of a product. And so it's just if you, I mean, I think it would be difficult for a young person to get in and possibly put themselves in the same position I'm in. But
Yeah.
that time that I've spent grinding away, like we were talking about before you hit record, the grind and the character building and all that that's come with, a gajillion years it feels like now in orthopedics is what allows that to be able to be done the way it is for me. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're operating at a super high level based on your experience and your expertise at this point. How would you tell people to structure if they're just starting out their first 2 years? Let's say they're out of college, they didn't go, they weren't in the OR when they were older. Um, they're they're 2 years out, they're grinding away. They don't have that expertise. They don't know a plate from a whatever. So
Yeah.
what how would you tell them to start going in order to get that expertise that you've gotten after so many years?
So I'm real big. I love to read. I think YouTube videos are great. I mean, all that stuff that's easily available now. So I got a reputation, and this will answer that question a little bit from this story because I like to tell stories. So I got a reputation when I was scrubbing as being the guy that asked questions. So I would be, I love to assist. First thing was one thing, but being able to assist and actually have your hands down in the incision and all that was just super. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I consider myself a distributor and a sales rep, but I mean, if you talk to anybody, I love being in the operating room. It's my favorite thing to do. So I would always ask questions. We'd be doing cases late at night, and so forth. And the other scrub techs would be like, Jones, keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, and just get this case over with so we can eat dinner and go home kind of deal. And it would never fail. I'd be in there and I'd start asking questions. Well, I mean, these surgeons that I was around constantly love to answer questions. I mean, most surgeons genuinely like to teach and educate. I mean, there's
Yeah,
very
dude.
few that don't. And so I don't think that there's ever a question that shouldn't be asked. I mean, you hear people talk about, there's no dumb questions and there's all sorts of jokes that I can tell around that, but I genuinely don't. I mean, I still to this day, I'm 44 now, so I've done this for like 28 years, I guess, if I do the math right, I think. I still ask questions. I mean, I started with a new surgeon recently, working with him. He's using a new implant of ours, and I ask him questions too. And people, I think that that's one really good way is if you're in the operating room, you should be asking questions. You shouldn't ever assume that you have it all figured out. And so I think if you're still in that beginning phases, I mean, a W-2 guy or even just somebody that's gotten lucky and's been able to go like a 1099 route with some smaller distributor. You like we discussed earlier, it's the grind. I mean, ask questions, do the research. I mean, I post on this sometimes. I mean, you should know your instrument sets. Like you could turn them upside down, flip them out, and put them together in a matter of minutes. I mean, you should know everything. And so know your sets, know your anatomy, and then just ask as many questions as you can about the procedures that you're in. I mean, find another rep that's a good dude or good girl that's willing to go out and talk about and learn from them. I mean, there's really some genuinely good people. I mean, I'm sure everybody's got somebody around them that's a stick in the mud, but even just in a year being on LinkedIn, some of the stuff I've learned from some of the people on here has just been super awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just a lifelong learn as much as you can and educate yourself as much as possible. And that's not even just from like a college standpoint. I mean, constantly learn. I mean, that's just, yeah.
So just actionable advice right there. Just know your sets, know the anatomy, ask questions. I mean, that's
Yeah.
right. That's really, and then do the research. YouTube,
Yeah,
journal.
I'll throw myself. I just really in the last like month started using Chat GPT. A bunch of people were harping on me that I wasn't using it. I've always been this tech nerd. Like stood in line for the first iPhone, that kind of stuff. And I don't know why Chat GPT, I just never got into it. But I had a couple of guys that were just like, Jones, you've got to start doing this. You got to start using it. And I'm like, eh. And then my kids make fun of me now because it's like every day I'm like, using it to learn about something, build something. I mean, it's just so yeah, there's so much knowledge that's easily available to us anymore. I mean, you don't have to get in your car like like we were in school back in the day and drive down to the medical school library to like study something. I mean,
Yeah,
it's in your pocket. So, I mean,
interesting. I've only heard one other rep, and that was a long time ago. But he was probably one of the best reps I've seen, and definitely a great manager to say go down to the medical school library and look at procedures.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
even during college, I mean, that's in organic chemistry. I mean, like we spent weeks down there doing stuff, but I mean, there's so much information that's just like in your pocket now on your phone
yeah,
that's just
I can skip
so,
that.
yeah, I mean, you can skip driving down to the university now, and just so much. I mean, there's never a reason why anybody shouldn't be able to learn something. I mean, even about your competitors' products. I mean, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, constant,
So Are you growing your team now? What stage are you at right now? Have you hired junior reps before to help
Yeah,
you out?
so we've had multiple employees. We're in like a low period now. We lost some business in the last year to robotics. And so we're kind of in a rebuilding period. And so yeah, so we're looking for like right now I'm starting to toy around with the idea of like getting another ASR again or a junior person to bring up and everything. That's I'm not really good at that because I'm kind of a control freak. I mean, so like I have my ideas about how things need to be done. We've had some really great employees over the years, and I've had some that were just okay. And so, yeah, but yeah, so it's a regrowth period right now for us, and that takes time. I mean, we discussed before we started recording, the cycle on total joints can be really, really long. So yeah.
Have to have the volume. You have to have the volume to justify it, and that's not always easy.
Yeah, the volume and you're trying to like you want to take care of people. I mean, I kind of have that mentality of like everybody we've always had work for us has always been like close friends. We treat them right and all that. And you don't want to hire somebody and then suddenly something change where you have to have a uncomfortable conversation. Firing people's not fun for those that haven't ever done it. It's or having to let people go because they're not whatever the reason is. That's not fun. And so yeah, we try and avoid that at all costs if
Yeah,
we can.
that's pretty responsible. What when you were growing your business, you were starting with your dad, right, Jones?
Yeah, yeah. Chris Senior started everything. I started with him. Yeah.
And so, at what point were you like, "This is"? I mean, did you ever doubt that this was going to be something that you could grow and kind of do, or is it just
No,
all?
I never doubted any of that. I joke sometimes that this was just what I kind of got stuck in. I mean, there's other things that I mean, I'm super interested in. Like, I mean, people that are around me know that, like, I mean, I like, farm work. I mean, I thought, going and building houses would be fun. I mean, it's just, this is one of those things that, I mean, I enjoy. I love surgery and so this allows me to be in the operating room still. And, you're kind of, I'm in my mid 40s. And so I mean, some people say, oh, you're not too old to go learn something or anything, but no, I enjoy the people that I get to work with. And everything has its challenges. You'll hear everybody griping about, how difficult it is now. And we really do face some challenges right now in this industry. I don't think that that's any different as if you were like dealing with kids all day long as a school teacher or, I mean, everything has its ups and downs and its highs and lows and it's things that you love and it's things that you don't love. I mean, so yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you see from your point of view right now?
So, I mean, a big challenge, and I don't face it as much. I've been on the good side of like dual vendorship programs and so forth. We've been really fortunate as a distributorship over the years to not be locked out of contracts. But that's something that I see becoming more and more of an issue is sole vendor programs like, large networks that are, just for a whole state or, regional, health network suddenly locking out, multiple companies. I mean, going, sole source to one vendor. I mean, we could get into all the philosophical thoughts on that if we wanted to, but that's a deep rabbit hole to go into. So I think
Let's
that,
leave that for Copeland.
yeah, you can leave that for Cope when you talk to him. Value analysis, I'm fortunate that I know most of the people inside of those in my area. And so that gives me an added benefit, but that's something that people really struggle with. And I'm not above it. I mean, I've been told no on a few products, so, but you just put on your big boy pants and, get back to work and try another way to go about it. So, value analysis committees have their, side of how difficult they can be to navigate. Sole source vendor kind of goes into that VAC thing. I think everybody is just having to look at things now from a standpoint of, and I think that's where there's the benefit of the 1099 model and having multiple, eggs in multiple baskets is, if somebody takes away a basket or somebody says, hey, we don't want that basket, I'm protected that way. But yeah, I think the sole vendor stuff is difficult. And then, I mean, you don't want to listen to me gripe about like, paper and plastic scrubs and,
Yeah,
credentialing services are a necessary thing. But I think credentialing services need to be changed. Those are things that are just, everybody has those things in probably every job. I just think that those things need to be restructured. I mean, and people want to hear what I have to say about that, they can just follow me on LinkedIn. I talk about that ad nauseum. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
every rep knows exactly what you're talking about on that one, and
yeah,
it's one of those things where enough people will be griping about it. Where I think the hospitals will eventually. I mean, you see now doctors like helping out their reps saying this is
oh,
ridiculous on
yeah,
some of these things. But yeah,
yeah,
we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. We could spend all day griping about that.
yeah. No, you don't want to do that.
What any deals that you thought that you were like this is gonna fall apart and then you saved it? Anything? Any big win like that?
So there was about, I mean, multiple years ago, I don't even know how long, it was before COVID. Let's just frame it that way. Multiple doctors we had were in a system that was looking to go dual vendor. And that was a pretty stressful time looking at, 2 or 3 of your major players inside a network. So back to I mean, multiple eggs in multiple baskets. I had lots of really big eggs in one gigantic basket, and that was one of those things where it was very fortunate that it worked out in our favor that we went on dual vendor program with this network, largest network in the state. And so yeah, so that was one of those deals where, I mean, you can do everything right, and you can, like I've said, I feel like I've lived my life a way that I don't really have to look over my shoulder and feel good about. And you can do everything right, and that could have just as easily not gone our way.
Hmm.
In a heartbeat. So yeah, I mean, yeah, there's lots of things. I mean, like we went through I've gone through the value analysis committee programs before, and I thought, this was a chip shot, it's a no-brainer, and you get told no, and you have to kind of like pick yourself up and go, okay, well, we need to go about this a different way. That's just part of it. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. I think the biggest thing to take away from some of that is you really want to carry yourself with, I mean, I don't really, as a decent person, I mean, I say that sometimes, I don't really think that's a difficult thing to be, but anytime I've, tried to put a product through or anything like that, those people know that I genuinely believe the product's a good product. And I think it solves a problem, but sometimes you just don't win those, battles, so to speak. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
fair
but yeah.
enough. With ortho, I mean, are you seeing a lot of your business, if not most of it, in the ASC area right now?
I am predominantly in ASCs. I mean, I don't know if you can say that I'm in small surgical hospitals or ASCs. Yeah, that's 90% of the business that I have now.
Is
I'll
that
do
a
some
trend that you've seen going? Like, have you
that
been?
has moved exponentially fast since COVID. Yeah. If you frame stuff pre and post COVID, we started during COVID very rapidly, we shut down, which, that affected everybody. Oklahoma opened up pretty quick. We rapidly changed policies. I was on a big forefront of that, inside, because at that time I was probably the opposite, 90% hospitals, 10%, surgical centers. Surgeons that were in the large networks started to pivot as fast as they could to, overnight was the most we were going to keep somebody in the hospital, or even same day. And so there was a big, huge shift during COVID, and then that's just moved more and more to ASCs. And my, business changes too. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've still got guys that are doing high volume surgery inside hospitals, but the guys that I'm working with now predominantly they do their primary joints in surgery centers. So yeah.
Have you seen equipment shifts or choices on implants driven by the ASC shift? Like, as you go to ASCs, do you leave some products behind in the hospital and pick up others, or just kind of streamline yourself in the ASC?
I would say that it's a lot of streamlining. I mean, in the hospitals, they've got big autoclaves. I mean, that's my joke. I always tell these surgery centers is like, I didn't realize you were building this to do dental surgery, work at a dental clinic. Cause I'm like, two small autoclaves is like, I mean, and so there's been us trying to be more logistically friendly and efficient inside these surgery centers, because they just don't have the washer volume and the sterilization volume that a large facility does. I mean, they don't. I mean, and so you try and I'm sure everybody does this. We try and get instrumentation there. There's a lot more communication of like, hey, I'm bringing this stuff in early in the morning because I know you kind of need to get like 1 or 2 trays in on every load. And so it's just stuff like that. It's just, like I said, it's just being a decent, my partner. That's what we are. I mean, if you want to look at it as partners with these facilities. And so, yeah, that's the best way to go about it. But yeah, there's been a huge shift to surgery centers. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've taken us down the ASC rabbit hole enough.
Yeah, you can talk about that all day long too.
Well, as we wrap up, so anything I haven't asked that you would say, if you were a 1099 rep, you're either thinking about going 1099 or you wanted to venture into medical sales, what would you tell them?
So anybody that's talked to me over the last year knows that I've kind of become this huge believer in LinkedIn, and anybody that gripes about that and doesn't like listen to me on LinkedIn, you can blame Stu Brandon for that. He's the one that told me a little over a year ago now that I should get on LinkedIn. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But LinkedIn is a great, I'm sure the people that are going to see this predominantly already on LinkedIn, but leaning in heavily on LinkedIn is a great way to like find companies, network with people, find new products and then the ability to talk to people to know how those products work and, the benefits that they're bringing. It's just a great spot to talk to people in your niche like that. There's products that I see where I'm like, man, that's super cool, but I'm never going to be able to use it and it worked for me. But it's still something, that you could tell somebody else. And so I think that network ability of talking to other people, because I don't know what the numbers are on like 1099s versus W2s, but the 1099 people, can really help each other out and point people in directions of like, this company might be a good fit. I just think that LinkedIn's a great spot for anybody that's like kind of in that 1099 smaller company mindset. And I even think the bigger companies can benefit from it too. But that's kind of my spill on where I think, spending time and learning those kind of things and getting more product, because I'll harp on it one more time. Lots of eggs and lots of baskets is a much better, safer place to be than one big egg and one basket. And so,
yeah, very good advice. Very good advice right there, Kris. All right. So Kris with a K Jones, for anybody who's looking for you on LinkedIn. And awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thanks for listening to the Independent Rep Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, please follow, share, and leave a review. To connect with John or learn more about succeeding in medical device sales, visit theindependentrep.com. Until next time, keep grinding, keep learning, and stay independent.